Welcome back to Binging the Force, a Star Wars watch party. Our regular weekly scheduled rewatching of Star Wars movies and TV shows. And back with me this week are some of our usual suspects. We've got Kim
Hello.
and Jefferson.
Hello.
And we believe Steve might be joining us in process, so we'll see if he joins in.
Yes, like Lando in the second movie, he'll dive into the story late.
Okay.
Who knows how late, and hopefully less treacherously than Lando.
Just pray I do not change the deal any further.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. He says he's running late. I don't know what that means. I don't know if that means 2 minutes or 20 minutes. So
Right.
we should probably just proceed.
It's going to do a Captain Jack Sparrow entrance or something.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
It'll be all right. It'll be fun. Give us some extra drama.
So we just had the holidays. Did you guys get anything fun, geeky, and nerdy?
Kinky, yes, and a warm heated jacket and fun. I don't know. I guess we cooked a bunch of new foods and stuff. That was fun.
Well, what geeky and nerdy stuff did you guys give each other for the holidays?
Nerdy stuff we got for the dogs. We got them clothes.
Okay, and that's nerdy in what way? What type of clothes?
Oh, there's Star Wars. Yeah,
Okay.
like
That's
Star
what makes
Wars
it nerdy.
Little Star Wars outfits.
print, Grogu, all that.
Okay, so you have a dog dressed as Grogu.
No, it just has Grogu on it. It says, "I'm so cute." It's a dress for Tally. And then we got Frankie a hoodie, like a street, it looks like graffiti, but it's Star Wars. And then jammies, like really fuzzy jammies that are gingerbread stormtroopers or something like that.
Okay.
Fun.
Do they get anything that isn't Star Wars or geeky or nerdy? I mean, I would imagine most of your gifts are Star Wars.
Yeah, no. And then Jeff got a tablet. So
okay.
Which he'll put Star Wars stuff on, so it's still
right. Yeah.
Yes.
And how about you, Jefferson?
Well, in the Star Wars department, we don't do much in the way of gifts, really, because we've been married over 20 years. We just run out of ideas for stuff to buy each other. Okay. But what we do every year is we do an advent calendar, just for a fun little silly thing. We did a Star Wars one this year. We did the Star Wars droid factory. And so each day you get a little part of a droid and you put them all together and you end up with 6 different droids. And they're little. They're like the scale of the Star Wars action figures. So
are they Legos?
No, they're plastic. They're, like I said, they're to scale with the action figures, the 3 3/4 action figure line. So there's and they're mostly astromechs, but they're Christmas themed. So like one is painted up to look like a nutcracker. And there's a BB-8 that's all white. He's a snowball.
That's cute.
And so on. Yeah, there's one that's an elf that he's got green and red. So they're all in kind of Christmas colors. And the final one for Christmas Day was the Gonk droid, which is sort of the box-shaped droid. And he's done
like the box with feet or the box with legs that's just kind of walking.
Yeah, exactly. Gonk.
Yeah, and he's painted up like a Christmas present. So he's green with like a bow and a ribbon on it. So that was pretty fun. Non-Star Wars, I got a few things. I got this really interesting book, Pacific Comics Companion. It's a history of Pacific Comics, which was one of the very first independent comic book publishers back in the late 70s and early 80s. And that's been pretty fascinating to read so far. So, yeah. Yeah, if you had a DVD or a Blu-ray of Oppenheimer, which I'm looking forward to watching.
Oh, okay, that's a good movie. It's a long movie. It's a slog of a movie. It's a heavy drama, but it is good.
Yeah, I saw it in the theater.
You saw it in the theater already. Okay,
that's why
we're getting the Blu-ray.
Yeah. I like to reward movies that I really liked. And that's how one way to do that. It's one way to kind of cast my vote is to buy the Blu-ray and
put money on
it. Our local art house showed it because they have a 70 millimeter. They're one of 12 theaters on the West Coast that actually can do 70 millimeter. And so they showed it and I saw it there. And then a week later, I think I might have talked about it a little bit on the podcast back when they did a series of all of the Lone Wolf and Cub movies, the samurai films from the 70s, while they were showing Oppenheimer. So they were showing Oppenheimer in their main screen, and then Lone Wolf and Cub in their upstairs screen. And so you're in there, you're watching Lone Wolf and Cub, which are really pretty cheesy 70s samurai movies, but you're getting all that bass rumble from
yes, from the heavy music and also the nuclear explosion.
Yeah, and it lent some drama. Yeah, you knew exactly when the bomb went off in the movie, no matter where. But it lent some extra drama to the Lone Wolf and Cub movie because you just got that kind of moody rumble throughout a lot of the film. So that was maybe a nice accident, I guess. I don't think that has anything to do with Star Wars, but it was a fun thing that I observed.
Now, I don't generally do a lot of gifts and don't do a lot of stuff in the holidays in general, but I did make sure that the one holiday thing I did was watch the Doctor Who holiday special. So
cool. Yeah, we did that too.
Which Disney didn't even refer to it that way. They just referred to it as special number 4.
Yeah, so well, and in fairness, they probably did that for 2 reasons. The story wasn't particularly Christmassy.
True.
It was a little, but not as much as previous
on Christmas. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, but probably they want it to be fairly evergreen, because if they call it the Doctor Who Christmas special, then starting the day after Christmas, nobody's going to want to watch it.
Well, I don't know. I mean, there've been many Doctor Who holiday Christmas specials at this point.
Yes, there have been. They've done one almost every year since the show came back.
Yeah.
They switched it for the last 5 years. They switched it to New Year's, so it was a New Year's special instead.
Yep.
I didn't watch that, but we did try to watch Rebel Moon.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm. Which is
Star
Wars enough, because it's basically calling it Zack Snyder's Star Wars ripoff, essentially.
So he presented it before Lucasfilm sold it.
Mm.
It was supposed to be a Star Wars movie.
Interesting.
Well, they didn't want it, or they didn't use it, so he took it, and we didn't finish it. We've only got 45 minutes in, I think, or only 40 minutes left. I can't remember, but we both checked out.
Lucasfilm made the right call, in other words.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was interested to hear you say tried to watch.
Yeah. There are things that I like about Zack Snyder. I mean, visually, he is an amazing filmmaker at creating visuals, but movies are supposed to have story and characters, and he really doesn't.
Yeah.
Or this one had too many, and you just didn't care about any of them.
That's the thing.
It was just...
Yeah, there are characters on the screen, but you don't care about them.
I'm not that kind of person that checks out. I'm like, okay, well, I'm over halfway through. I'm in it to win it. I'm usually a ride or die kind of person, and I just couldn't.
Wow.
There are very few things I throw in the towel on. I actually walked out of a movie once this year, and I do that very, very, very rarely. I mean, I'm a movie person. Going to the movies is going to church for me. And I mean, I very, very rarely walk out of a movie. I did out of the most recent Fast and the Furious movie. I got about an hour in. I was like, this just isn't doing anything for me.
Yeah, I too, I will rarely do that. The last thing I can remember actually walking out of before it ended was, I can't remember the name of the film that was. Every year, one of our big events in Portland is the H.P. Lovecraft Film Festival that we have every year. And I am currently one of the... sorry, say that again?
I was just saying, jokingly, Cthulhu Fest.
Yeah, kind of, yeah. It's the Lovecraft Film Festival and Cthulhu Con, so yes. I am currently on and I have been for the last 5 years, I think. I'm on the jury, so I help pick the movies now.
Oh, wow.
But back way before then, it was one of the first festivals we went to after we moved here. There was a film that was an adaptation of one of Lovecraft's stories the story was called Cool Air. I think the film was called something else. It starred one of the guys from Melrose Place.
No.
So okay. I can't remember the actor's name. So I probably that should have been a warning sign. But it was so bad. It was one of those cases where the director was also playing one of the characters in the film, and he also wrote the adaptation. And so it was very clearly a self-indulgent. The director basically wanted to put himself in his movie. And of course, he was the worst actor in the film. And and Catherine and I, after about 30 minutes, I think we just got up and went, no, this is not, we can't watch another hour of this. We just can't do it.
when you were actually on the jury for the film festival.
Yeah, I am now. I wasn't. Yeah, I wasn't.
Oh, you
then,
weren't at the time. Okay, I was going to say,
yeah, that was back
in. If you left now.
No, yeah, exactly. And now, well, what's interesting is because I'm on the jury, I end up. Usually we go now, and I've already seen most of the films. The ones that were submitted
for them anyway.
But luckily, this last year, it happens every October, so it just happened recently. And this last year, we went, and just by chance, because I don't watch every single movie, I watch a lot of them, but we review them online, and the point of the judges is we kind of give the films a consensus, good or bad, and then the festival directors take it from there. And our job is mainly to weed out the really terrible ones. But just by chance, a lot of the films that they picked were ones that I hadn't watched in my assigned films for judging. So I got to see mostly films I hadn't seen, which was nice. It hadn't happened before. And that's I guess that's kind of the danger of getting involved in a convention or a festival in a behind the scenes capacity, is you lose a little bit of the fun of just going as an attendee.
Yeah, for sure.
And for me, as an H.P. Lovecraft, not really a big fan, not knowing a lot, I'm like, okay, you can't just keep watching Reanimator, obviously.
Yeah, exactly. And the reason that it sustains a festival, I mean, not every film is an actual adaptation of a Lovecraft story. A lot of them are, obviously, but we try to pick movies that are sort of inspired by or in the vein of or have the same kind of vibe to them. But the reason it's viable is because Lovecraft's, all of his work is in the public domain. He didn't have any children, so nobody owns his work. Anyone can make a movie based on one of his stories without having to pay any fees or get any approval or anything. And that's both a blessing and a curse. You see you see some really cool films, but you see some really bad ones too. So,
yeah. Actually, January 1st, on that note, the very first iteration, the Steamboat Willie iteration of Mickey and Minnie Mouse go into the public domain. So
yeah, I was reading about that. I know Disney's been trying to
get a whole lot of new adaptations of Mickey and Minnie Mouse that are you can't do the more modern versions. It's specifically only the Steamboat Willie, like 1928 version. Is the only thing that's
I know that like Disney's been trying to keep getting the copyright laws extended so that they can keep on.
Yes,
but I mean, along similar lines, even though the character of Superman is still under copyright and trademark, DC still owns the character. The Superman cartoons that Max Fleischer made in the 30s, those are in the public domain. So if you wanted to, you could release them on DVD, or we could watch them and review them without you getting any of the usual copyright hassle. Right. So even though that particular version of Superman is free and clear, it doesn't mean you can make new Superman stories.
And I think probably you successfully rambled enough to get Steve in here. So
hi, Steve. We've just been stalling on your behalf.
Sorry,
what did you
guys.
get for Christmas, Steve? Anything good?
All right. Being on my bike, as many people know, is about a 15-minute window either way, and this time I lost. So thanks for
no problem. So let's go ahead and jump into episode 6 of Andor.
Real quick before we go, because I'm sure our viewers are dying to know, the movie I was talking about earlier that I walked out of was called Chill. Came out in 2007.
Okay. So episode 6 is the Eye. It is the culmination of our heist storyline. And I did want to note the title of the episode when I posted it for the live viewing here, and what it'll be when it actually goes out, is 6 Against the Galaxy. And what I wanted to note why the episode is called 6 Against the Galaxy. That was issue 2 of the original Marvel Star Wars comic book, the adaptation of the movie. And it was initially the 6 characters of the original Star Wars movie. And that's where the title of that issue came from, was 6 Against the Galaxy. And our heist team is 6 members against the Empire. So I thought that was an interesting parallel there.
I could, if I wanted to be bothered, I could reach under my bed, which I'm sitting on right now, and pull that very comic out from the box. I think it's directly under where I'm sitting, actually. But
they haven't made an Ocean 6 yet, so maybe there's a chance.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go ahead and jump in. Okay, and I did skip ahead, so we don't have the previously on, and went right into the logo, and still couldn't cut off the logo completely. So at least we start off with the logo there.
All right, so we're right into the episode. We have pre caper jitters from.
And this
from
just
our
looks
young
like a
revolution.
miserable existence to me.
This is what Portland's like all the time. If you're
This
talking
is
about
camping
I
at
was
the
just gonna say
worst.
this is today.
yeah, this is the last 2 months and the next 3, really.
Oh, basically,
I
just
don't know.
all fog all the time.
Yeah, kind of. It's not normally this foggy, but it's very gray.
You know, it has been very foggy where I live. Maybe oddly foggy the last couple weeks, which is nice. It's a bit of a change. So we're in the cloud.
Yeah, maybe we should pitch them to film future seasons of Andor here in Portland instead of. I think this was filmed in Scotland, I think, or Ireland.
Yeah, I'm from the Monterey Bay area, so I know all about the fog.
Mm-hmm.
So he's having a conversation here with the true believer, basically the member of the team who genuinely wants to be part of a rebellion, wants to stop the Empire, and talking about like him actually writing kind of manifestos to his writings that can help inspire people to join the rebellion.
Mm-hmm. And this is an interesting sort of conversation because you have the starry-eyed revolutionary on one side and the cynical, I don't believe in anything.
Yeah, he's just in it for the money.
Yeah, and neither of them, I mean, they're both wrong in some ways, and they're both right in others. You want to you need to meet somewhere in the middle between these two viewpoints.
Yeah.
No, you need to be a practical revolutionary.
Yeah, exactly.
Revolutions need food. Revolutions need funding.
Mm-hmm. And revolutions need to have realistic expectations too.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But it's a nice little exchange anyway.
Yeah.
Coming up.
Poor kid.
Mm-hmm. And again, like I think the strength of this show and I think the reason why maybe it's resonated among people who aren't diehard Star Wars fans is you could change the background and make pretty minimal changes to the script and it's not a Star Wars show anymore. It's
I mean, it's a heist film. I mean, it could be any group of people, fighting against.
Just take off all the ranks and the hats off all these people and you don't have a Star Wars movie and the ships. You're good.
I would even go so far as to say that even with the uniforms and the diagonal lights in all of the windows of the Imperial vehicles, it's not enough to make it Star Wars, except for those who know.
Mm-hmm.
So people who don't know don't really feel like it's being wrenched from another universe. It's because I think the heist aspect is pretty solid.
Yeah. I mean, this could be taking place in an Eastern European country, where the military overlords are transporting their, their gold, their wages, and then this is a group of people trying to take it down,
Right, exactly. Yeah, and to me, that's an absolute strength of the story.
Yep. And anybody with it. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
The best stories in any setting like this, Star Wars, to me, the strength of Star Wars has always been in the setting and in the background. So to me, the best Star Wars stories are stories that are about something, but they're not about Star Wars. Does that make sense? They shouldn't be about the details of continuity or the details of the background. I think they should be about it. It should be about a story. It should be about characters doing things.
So what we're building here too is that the big festival is occurring. That that it's the planet that they've taken over here, the land that they're occupying, they're allowing them to have their big festival that is really important to them. The Eye. It's basically this big happening in the sky that everyone gathers for, and it's a huge celebration, and so
drinking their coffee at the same time. They're also saying there were 60 people there last night. Looks like there's more. So I don't know if Cassian's group caught on with them or not. And they're like, it's a festival. It's going to be growing. There can be 15,000 people there. So like that's
all of which makes a good camouflage for a heist.
Yeah, and the scene that we just passed with the officers in the office, they're so nasty and condescending about how they're treating the locals, and they're You know, they talk about, I don't remember if it's this scene or a scene coming up, but that officer talks about how one of the things they did is they set up a bunch of basically truck stops along the way, the path that the pilgrims take to walk to where this festival is supposed to be, to this valley. And so he said they usually start out with like 500 people, but they have all these bars and places that serve alcohol all along the way. So people stop off and they get hammered and they don't go any farther. And so their crowd thins out. And it's just this sort of nasty, cynical thing that the Empire does to keep the population.
Keep it from being a larger gathering that could be more of a security risk.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, one of the things that we haven't talked about, I don't think about this snapshot or the original snapshot, is obviously that there's a major allusion to fascist Europe in the uniforms and the actions and the attitudes. And when the original Star Wars came out, and when these original, gray, uniforms were in vogue, it was, 30 years and change out from World War II. We're a lot farther away now, but I think the fact that it still harkens back to that fascist era is still something that, even if people don't recognize Star Wars, they recognize these icons, So I think
they're called stormtroopers.
Yeah,
they're literally called stormtroopers. Yes,
right. It's called the Empire.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they stopped just short of calling it the Reich.
Right, exactly. Yeah, the Reich was not called the Empire, but the stormtroopers were called stormtroopers. The Nazis did have stormtroopers.
Yeah, and then, this could be any World War II. This could be Kelly's Heroes.
Yeah, exactly.
I have a friend who really he's not a Star Wars fan at all. He doesn't really care for Star Wars, but he loves this show. He said this is one of his favorite things that was on TV last year.
Nice.
So now we have,
if the spoiler alert, TIE fighters that we see in this show, flying through this, nondescript landscape were biplanes or,
that makes it better. I mean, to me, the Star Wars it's the icing, it's the flavor.
100%.
Yeah, and so that makes it resonate for me because I'm a fan. But I really appreciate that. First and foremost, this is a story, as opposed to being a Star Wars story in particular.
Clan.
They are.
They're still.
They just. I guess their plan was just kind of. Their plan was just to kind of roll up and we're part of this garrison too, and that's enough to get them in, I guess.
Yeah, blend in. Yeah, I literally had to count because I was like, okay, how many people are actually in the heist? And I tried to look it up. It's like, oh yeah, okay, it's 4 men, 2 women. It is 6 against the galaxy.
Right. Well, I guess 7 if you count the officer that's helping them.
Yeah, but he's not part of the team.
Right. Yeah. And we get more of the sort of contempt that the Empire treats this whole festival with. They're not explicit, but I think we're meant to believe that Imperial, that guy right there who's just out, he was just taking a leak. That might be a Star Wars first too.
Yes, although they would call it a privy, I'm sure. Because as we know, Star Wars is British.
Yes, well, ish. The Empire is certainly British.
The Empire is British. Yeah.
And
they're marching that they practiced last episode. We saw them literally practicing for that moment right there,
costumes, so
they could march in unison.
Yeah. And
this is something that I can definitely relate to.
Oh, not being able to close your belt. Yeah.
I
think we're all approaching that age. This is some. I mean, I guess this scene is okay, but its purpose is to show us how awful this guy is, so that we won't feel sorry for him later.
Right? Yeah.
But it's
they would say, like, Even the enemy loves their children. Well, not this enemy.
Yeah, I think it's a teeny bit over the top. I mean, it's like it's Harry Potter's foster parents. They're just so cartoonishly awful.
Yeah,
it's a little much. I don't know that this was necessary.
Well, I don't think so either.
Yeah, it's just he's a jerk to his family too. Yeah.
So
as long as they didn't name him Dursley, they haven't gone too far.
Right, exactly. But yeah, they need us to root for the robbers, which is always that's a little challenging.
Right, exactly. I mean, technically, we are rooting for anti-heroes. They are stealing. It is a heist, but that is usually a heist film. You are meant to be with the people performing the heist.
Yeah, and heist films almost always do this. They set up the person who's being stolen from as an awful person who deserves it. So
yep.
I guess
you have to hate Colonel Clink. Yep.
Right. Right. More sort of tension here. Are they going to get found out? Are they going to blend in? We learned that our officer friend here speaks the local language, which is interesting.
I mean, honestly, I have to say, if you want to look for an allegory, I mean, these look like they could be Afghanis, or Burmese or anything like that,
Sure. I wonder. I mean, they're a native population. I wonder if the design of them was dictated more by the cold grayness of where they were filming.
Yeah.
They couldn't be like half naked savages or anything like that because the actors would freeze.
Now that's very Star Wars. That viewfinder there was a very Star Wars looking viewfinder.
Yeah, it's all there. It's there in the details, and that's what makes it so great.
Oh, the whooshing.
Comes the whooshing.
Sorry, go ahead, Kim.
I said, oh, and the whooshing.
I was just going to say, we talked previously about the directors and the writers on this, that some of them they were new to Star Wars, but that's why you've got hundreds of technicians and hundreds of production designers and all the other people who can bring the Star Wars to it.
Right, exactly. Yeah,
from the writers or directors.
And I think that's often better to do. It's better to have, because a fan is going to maybe get too bogged down in the nerdy details,
like we've seen.
John Favreau.
Yeah, I mean, this I can't stress enough how I think this is probably my favorite version of Star Wars. I can't stress enough how
interesting,
just how utterly satisfying I have found this series so far.
I don't know. Ahsoka was pretty darn cool.
Yeah, Ahsoka was a lot.
I mean, it was 180% fan service, but
yeah, exactly, and that's fine. And
it was 200% Star Wars.
Yes,
true.
Yes, that too. Then there's absolutely a place for that, but Ahsoka was. I'll tell you what I think the difference is. Ahsoka was a sugary dessert. This is a meal. This is a substantial, proper meal with potatoes and steak. And whereas Ahsoka was a sugary dessert, which, I mean, and there's a place for both, but that one of the two you can live without.
Ooh, that is serious.
But I mean, I'm not saying I didn't like
to digest that.
I certainly did, but I'm saying I like this a lot more. This is the sort of thing that I enjoy.
I think I'll go on the positive on both. This is filet mignon, but Ahsoka is like the best birthday cake ever.
Yeah.
Well, and as someone who may or may not RPG in the Star Wars world, this is a lot more tangible because we don't necessarily have the major heroes and lightsabers all the time. It's more existing and heisting and adventuring in this world, which this seems to be more grounded and more more world building to me than just the epic heroscapes that some of the other things are. Even though I love all of it.
Here's what's going on in the core story.
Yeah.
Here's what everybody else is doing.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is arguably some of the really, really important stuff that shifts the tides more than some of the minor things that end up being to Jefferson's allusion, the dessert you know, that may end it or move it, you know, finally in, you know, that top 10% of effect. But these are the large movements. These are the major meals that really kind of set the stage and turn the big wheels of the lore in this universe.
Well, and right now we're in a period of 18 years where this is not a time of heroes. You know, the Jedi are not a factor at this point. You know, the Empire has taken over, and so the heroes of this time are
Great
having
point.
little victories. They're
Excellent point.
there's not like big galactic victories happening right now. You know,
Yep.
the Empire is in charge for 18 years, and so it's like these little victories of little things like this heist taking place. You know, it's like, you know, are they going to score like this you know, minor victory against the Empire that will basically has the possibility of, it is not the forest fire, but it's the spark. You know.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the Jedi show up and, you know, destroy, you know, an Empire base, you know, or Mandalorians show up and, you know, destroy, you know, an Empire base. That's a forest fire, you know.
Yep.
This here is a spark that can lead to that. As we find out later in the show, you know, spoilers later in the series. I mean, it is a spark that helps, you know, fan the flame of really causing the rebellion to happen, because rebellions need funding.
And that's part of the story too, is getting us from the Cassian Andor that we're seeing here. How do we get from that to what we see in Rogue One?
Exactly.
Where he's definitely a true believer by that point. You know, he's an extremely ruthless true believer, but he's not what he is in this. And so we need to see, and that's the point of this, is we're going to get to see what makes you, what takes you from indifference to caring about what's happening.
Yeah, or straight at mercenary, you know. That's the thing. What takes him from just that mercenary mindset, I'm just out for myself, I'm just out for money, you know, to I believe in something.
For that whole 5 minutes you guys just talked, there's just the whole suspense of, are we doing this? Are we doing it? Are we gonna? Are we going? They were just back and forth like, holy crap.
Yeah, I think that was well-timed covering up there.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing with you know, we talked about it earlier, I think pre-show, you know, that it is the longest Star Wars show so far at 12 episodes, you know, 12-hour long episodes. You know, there's a lot of ground to cover here, and some of it is not the fastest paced stuff. You know, it is definitely paced for streaming, as they say.
Yeah, and they give us these pretty well-timed moments of excitement,
suspense, all of it.
Yeah, and it's what I like about it too is because it's a heist and it's a pretty straightforward heist story. We the audience, we know how heist stories work.
We know who's gonna win. Yeah.
Well, that, but we also know that at the start, the heroes are going to tell us their plan,
right?
And then now we're going to see
everything's going to go wrong.
Yeah,
exactly.
So, and that's the fun. Yeah. The fun is not the fun is seeing how does their plan fall apart and how do they recover from that?
That's exactly right, because we also know that we're only halfway through the series, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
So we know that this is not the end. So where can this possibly go when this seems to be the climax? This is the heist.
Yeah.
This is what we're building to, but no, this is we're just building to the intermission here.
Well, yeah, and we know it's a
complication.
It's a cycle. We're in the heist cycle, so we're in the, you know, one of the multiple stories within a story that comprises the first season.
Right.
We're only at the end of the heist arc.
And there is, and then I mean, and it's as heist stories go, I don't know that it necessarily breaks any new ground, but it's a very well done heist story. You know, it's not. I don't know that it needs to break any new ground, really. But we get all the.
Go ahead.
We get all the usual stuff of them. You know, the people having guns pointed at them and being
here's
yelled
the double
at.
cross. Yeah.
Yeah. Here's the double cross. We get all of that, all the stuff that we've come to expect, but it's done pretty well. It's done, I think, very well in this.
Okay, they say nobody has to die, but
Nobody except for that guy has.
That guy.
No one told her.
Maybe someone else.
Well, the women did not agree to that. The men agreed not to kill
Yes.
anyone. The women did not agree to that.
They were on the bridge. They were out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Enjoy the eye.
You know, I think having the women be more cutthroat and bloodthirsty, I think is cool. So,
And the other bit of fun, I mean, depending on the tone of the heist movie you're watching, the tone of this is pretty serious. The other fun thing to do is try to figure out, okay, who's not going to make it to the end, because you never make it to the end with the whole cast still.
Yep. Yeah, I think that's Seven Samurai. I think probably set the tone for that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think all like gathering of a mission like this, you know, movies, and you know, always start from there and go forward from there. That's the template. So.
Right. You mentioned the Star Wars comic book earlier, the old Marvel one, and they did a Seven Samurai story in that comic when they started doing. They adapted the film, the original film, and then they started doing news stories after that. And one of them was they had 8 instead of 7, but it was Han Solo and Chewie and a bunch of misfits. But it was the Seven Samurai. It was a pretty fun story. But it has nothing.
It's not even the first heist story within, you know, even the Disney Star Wars series, because we did get one in the first season of The Mandalorian. I mean, it was a prison break, but it was, you know, it was basically a heist thing, and they did it in one episode. You know, that's the thing. It is a different story than this. This is a totally different pacing. Yeah.
Well, and Solo had had the train robbery.
Yeah.
And the coaxium robbery. So Solo had 2 heists.
And Rogue One.
They
got plans.
Yeah. Yep. Well, I mean, it's a great template for a story, you know, and that's why that's why it's a genre. That's why we can sit here and talk about heist films, because
and we know what we're talking about. That's the thing. You say that, and people know, you know, what you're talking about.
Yeah, so there's a shorthand, which is great. But yeah, I mean,
we've had what, 27 Ocean's 11 films now.
Exactly. Yeah, and it's such a great framework for a story that it bears repeating, and the audience doesn't get tired of it.
So I guess the real question is, when is George Clooney going to be in Star Wars?
Sorry, what was that, Kim?
Said every Mission Impossible, every Bond movie, all of those are like heist.
Yeah.
Sure.
Break into a vault and steal something.
Yeah. It's up there in terms of the basics. You know, they say there's like 7 basic stories. You know, it's up there with Boy Meets Girl. You know, you know, gather a team and steal something.
But I do still want to see George Clooney in a Star Wars movie.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
I know you're joking, but at the same time, I don't overly care for seeing faces that I recognize.
Absolutely.
In Star Wars, I find that it often takes me out of the story a little too much. I mean, depending on who it is, like Samuel Jackson was fine, but he's a good enough actor that he was able to blend into the background. He didn't stick out like somebody like George Clooney would.
Right. That's the thing. You put George Clooney and you're going to go, oh, it's George Clooney. You know, I mean, you're not going to see him as a character.
You're absolutely right. Number one, I was kidding, but but in some ways, I think that a good story that is made for a good actor, he or she can overcome those types of things.
Right.
Like, am I worried about Anna Taylor-Joy in the new Mad Max?
Yeah, I saw the trailer for that the other day.
Because I think she's great.
Yeah.
And
that trailer looked amazing.
Yeah, and I'm really hoping she can overcome and not just like be herself. I think she can be more. She can be Furiosa.
I think you're right.
I mean, and you're right. I think she's been different in everything that she's been. I don't think there is an Anya Taylor-Joy persona in films.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the difference between somebody like her and somebody like Clooney, just to use your previous example. I can't remember what movie it is, but there was a movie that I remember seeing this one part of it that had Peter O'Toole in it, and he played an actor, but his big line, like his big declaration in the movie, he says at one point, "I'm not an actor, I'm a movie star."
Yeah. Yep.
And that there's something to that. You know, there's
a difference. Kill me that I can't think of the title because I've seen that movie like 150 times.
Yeah, but there's a difference between the two, and it doesn't mean that Clooney's a bad actor. He's just a different kind of actor.
So do you think that Andor season 2, not to get too far off track, do you think they bring in any faces, any, because Mandalorian did it left and right with people that we know, and some camouflage to better effect, some to worse effect. But does Andor do something?
I hope not in this case, because the tone of those shows is so different. The tone of Mandalorian is very different to the tone of Andor. And so I'm more prepared to tolerate gimmicky cameos in Mandalorian
For
because
sure.
it suits the tone. Where I kind of drew the line, Jack Black in the last season was a bit too much for me.
It was terrible.
I love it. I love that.
I just thought it was distracting because I wasn't seeing the character he was playing. I was seeing Jack Black.
I've sat at a bar and had beers with Jack Black. I love Jack Black, but it was not the right thing.
See, because to me it made sense because it was a very Jack Black character.
Yeah, it was, and that's true. And it wasn't enough to make me not enjoy the episode. But that was, to me, that's as distracting a cameo as I ever want to see. And I don't want to see anything even remotely like that in this.
So we're in the heart of actually trying to steal the shipment there, the gold.
Here we go.
This is where stuff starts happening.
Yep, release the straps.
It's an interesting part of their plan that they're going to make all the hostages load the money for them.
It's a great plan.
It is. It's actually a pretty good plan that they've got. It's not a terrible plan at all.
Well, they are used to following orders. So.
Yeah, exactly.
No training necessary.
Yeah, if it wasn't like a military regimented people who you couldn't count on them, like that's the thing. Whenever the heist is a bank, it's like counting on all the bank employees, like acting appropriately and following instructions and stuff like that. I think at least with the military personnel, that they're going to do things exactly the same way every time.
Right. Yeah, and as you said, they're accustomed to if there's an authority barking orders at them, chances are they're going to
jump in line.
Exactly,
because they're so conditioned to do that.
Okay, so
and like I said, it was good. Sorry, go ahead, Kim.
To me, is so not Star Wars, where that all of those things are on those racks. Those racks should just move and just go. They're having to take them off one by one and then put them on these little transporty things.
Yeah, there should be like floating pallet.
Yeah, I would. Yeah,
that is a very, very good point.
Repulsor lifts should be fairly ubiquitous here.
Yeah. Right. I think we're back in that factory with the moving chains and everything. Like, why is this? Well, it's like that's what the plot demanded.
This is what we need.
It's production design following plot at that point.
Right, exactly. Because
if everything down, is this part of the plan?
That the power goes out? I think so. I think it is because he had a flashlight with him. Why would he have a flashlight with him otherwise?
So they need to like break into the vault or get a lock or do something, get it powered back up or something.
I like the way that every time there's been multiple moments of this, that whenever these soldiers have had to go do something, they all complain about missing the eye. That I think there was even a conversation with them talking about the only reason that they were happy to take this assignment or were okay with taking this assignment was the opportunity to see the eye, to be there for this event, and so like they probably put in like 18 months of a crappy detail with clearly like supervisors who treat them like crap, and the only payoff for them was going to be able to get to see the eye, and they're like, wait, I need to go rush and do something right now and do my job, but I'm gonna miss the eye.
right. And we were given the impression in the last episode that
I think I just saw a repulsor lift, by the way.
Yeah,
yes, but the whole rack should move.
Mm-hmm. Well, we're given the impression that a lot of the troops that are detailed here are kind of slackers. This is not. Yeah. This is not where the high achievers get sent.
Yeah, this was not a choice detail. Right. Yeah, this was not. They did not put their top men on it.
We saw the weather. The weather's horrible. Mm-hmm. So they are not going to the beach every day or anything.
Sure.
Yep. Yeah, it is a crap detail.
These are the people that are still curious about the Yuzon Vong coming into Star Wars lore.
Ooh, that's a deep cut.
That is deep cut.
I'm there. I'm one of those.
Just trying to start fights. Just starting to start fights.
Pilgrim's Gasp. That's a great subtitle.
Yep. It's the eye. This is what
And it's pretty impressive.
It's pretty gorgeous. Yeah.
Yeah, I could see going and camping out in a valley for a week to watch that. I can see that. And I hate camping.
Yeah, it beats Burning Man. I mean, it's got Burning Man beat hands down.
Exactly.
So they have 2 minutes to get all those things out, and they're like not even done with the first 2 racks.
Yeah, they're not even close.
And now he realizes that one of his own men has been part of this.
As an inside man. And this is a great exchange too, because this guy, the main leader, the older guy, he is sort of he's the symbol for the Empire's hubris. Their complete lack of belief that anybody could possibly rebel against them.
Now this is cool. This is very Star Wars, but I mean, we really had not gotten this kind of good look at a group of TIE fighters, sitting there waiting, people, pilots jumping into them and everything, waiting to be dropped.
Yeah, seeing the pilot just dive into the cockpit was
exactly.
Great. And again, that's a scene we see in World War II movies all the time.
Yeah, but we hadn't seen the Star Wars analog to it.
Yeah, and you're right, it was cool to see.
Yeah.
Now there's someone there that's not supposed to be there.
Yeah, here's where the plan starts to unravel.
Now it's really bad.
And I watched this yesterday to prep, and I'm not entirely clear on whether he's faking his heart attack or whether he's actually having a heart attack.
And we kind of don't care.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, kind of building on what you were just talking about in terms of, his hubris, that he just didn't think this kind of thing would happen,
right.
that they're the impervious, empire.
Yeah. Nobody could possibly.
Yeah. No one would have the temerity to try to do this, which is a very George Lucasian line.
Yeah.
No one would have the temerity to try this against the Empire.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Cockpit fight.
I have the worst glare on my computer for some reason.
Well, it's a dark scene. It's very
dark.
This thing of seeing the TIE fighters get dropped like this, I don't think we've seen that before.
No, I don't think we did.
Cool.
We see something similar in Force Awakens. We see the racks of the TIE fighters in the launch bay. But it's not the same as this. It's similar, but it's not really the same kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen it in other sci-fi. Not to talk about other franchises, but
why would we? Why would we even? Yeah, why would we even care about the existence of other franchises?
Are there other franchises?
Not anything noteworthy.
Not here, not right now.
So the kid just saved Cassian.
Right.
Things are not going well.
The kid, because he just saved our hero, he is now marked for death.
Yes, he must now join the ranks of the fallen.
Yeah.
Wait, are you reading along with the formula?
And I'm not. It's not necessarily a bad thing to follow a formula, I don't think. If you do it well, I think you can.
Well, I think that's a good point, because I think if this was the movie, then people would shrug. But the fact that this is only a part of the movie to get us move further along, it's something that's comfortable. It's something that's accessible. So people don't dwell on it too much because we're still moving forward. Right.
But also we've had 2 other episodes, I mean, to build up to know these characters, to have it mean something when they die.
Yep. Yeah, and that's really important, because it needs to matter when this poor kid gets squished.
Exactly. We have to care about it. It needs to hurt for us.
Yeah, and that might have been harder to do if this were just a feature film.
Exactly. Sure. Yeah, I think we never would have had the time to develop all 6 of them as well as we have here.
It would have been a throwaway.
Got like a quarter of what they came for, right?
Yeah, they didn't get all the cash, but still, I mean, there's an exchange later that explains that it's still a lot of money.
Yeah, because we're down to what, 4 here, and so.
Well, yeah, I think the plan was for the other woman. I feel terrible that I can't remember anybody's name.
Right,
but the plan was for her to meet up with them later, so she wasn't meant to be on this ship. And so there's 4 of them on the ship because they lost.
Yeah, I was going to say they're still down at least one now.
They're down. Yeah, they're down one of their guys plus the officer that was helping them.
Right.
And the kid, of course, the kid who got horrifically injured was the only one who knew how to operate the navigational thingy.
Right.
Redundancy, people. Redundancy. Come on. He's the only one there who can work a Polaroid camera.
Well, in my defense, I like to be the only one that knows everything in any scenario.
Yeah,
otherwise,
indispensability is good.
People don't throw me out the airlock.
You like being the single point of failure.
Yeah, that's right.
So then, if that's true, you just need to try not to stand too close to the heavy cargo carrier thing that's going to squash you.
Yeah. Well, I don't stand anywhere close to the airlock in my own house.
Yeah, that's.
I know I've got people who would gladly nudge me out.
Here's another terrific. This is definitely a Star Wars moment. It's it's Star Wars when the TIE fighters are chasing you and shooting at you.
Yeah, and you're about ready to crash your vehicle and die. Yeah.
Yeah, and you're in a junker too. The heroes are always in junkers. They're never in nice, fancy ships.
This is Andor's Kessel Run.
Right, exactly. And it looks great. They've taken advantage of the advancements in visual effects technology to good effect. They've made, this is still pretty standard Star Wars stuff, but they've made it just look a lot more.
I was going to say the TIE pilots, the inside of the cockpits, the actions of the TIE pilots, it's more visceral than we'd ever really seen TIE pilots before.
Yeah, that's true as well.
Even the Imperial officers are like, okay, that's why I took this detail. I'm just going to stand here and stare at this.
Yeah. Okay, that is actually pretty cool.
Yeah, which is what they were counting on. They were counting on them being distracted by this.
And I mean, and in their defense, I mean, it looks great on the tiny little 2-inch by 4-inch screen that I'm looking at it on right now. Imagine if you were actually there seeing that in the sky.
Yeah.
All right, so the kid's hanging on. He's not
dead
yet.
It's just a flesh wound.
Now we get another point of argument, and this is interesting. I think this is where we start to see Andor turn over in his viewpoint, because she wants to let the kid go. She wants to keep going to the rendezvous, and Andor wants to take him to the doctor. When you would expect those two positions to be reversed.
Yeah.
She's the one who had been leading it before, but I mean, she's got a mission and she's trying to fulfill her mission. Her mission is getting those funds to the potential rebellion.
Right, and at the end of the day, all these other people that she's working with are tools that she's using to do that.
Yeah,
I like the doctor.
Oh yeah, doctor's awesome.
4 arms, I bet, really helps being a surgeon.
Yeah.
It's got a little bit of a Lobot thing going with the wraparound ear thing, but he's also got a little bit of Drex with the 4 arms.
Yeah.
A little bit of Chewie's girlfriend from Solo.
A rare instance of an alien on this series. We really don't see very many alien characters. All right, here we go. Here's the big
well, it's always the scramble. It's like, now that they've succeeded, quote unquote, and they've got the money, there's no honor among thieves, and they've got to start infighting amongst themselves about, fighting for who takes it. I mean,
which is also a classic trope of the
very, very much a heist and, kind of mob thing, kind of standard thing is like, now that the thieves have made it away with the loot, it's like they start fighting amongst themselves, and that's how they get caught.
Right.
Yeah, and
so now this guy's trying to get him to turn.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, so you're not into the rebellion. I'm a rebel, but I'm a rebel for myself. Yeah, me against everybody else. That's his rebellion. His rebellion is selfishness.
This crew really did compartmentalize a little bit too much. Only one person knows how to fly the ship. Only one person knows how to operate the navigation.
Yeah. Yeah, it was not a great operational plan.
No.
And that's probably why, the other guy brought, Andor in. It's like, he's the good utility guy. He saw how he could think on his feet.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wonder if this guy's testing him or if he really wants to do
the first time I watched it, I was wondering that too. Is this some kind of...
Well, you're definitely meant to question what his motivation is here.
Right. But is he just testing Andor, or is he actually serious about wanting to run off with the money?
I mean, a lot of times I feel
like, there we go. Shoot first.
I feel like casting, it plays a lot, and it ruins things for me because I know actors so well that, there are episodes of like mystery shows or whatever, and I can tell from the opening credits when I see a character actor that I know, and like, oh, that's the killer,
Yeah.
With casting him as that role, I think we can go with that he was being selfish.
Yeah, I do too. I think by the end of the exchange, I think we need to believe that.
Yeah.
And I wasn't familiar with that actor, so but yeah, I got there at that point. But initially, I was thinking, well, is this a loyalty test?
Yeah.
And it didn't matter because that set up how ruthless Andor is too. Which
right. Exactly.
We see that all the way through to the film, to Rogue One. We see that streak of ruthlessness that not many other Star Wars heroes have.
Yeah, well, it's a self-preservation. It's obviously how he makes it all the way to Rogue One,
Right.
With all the situations he gets put into, there's a reason why he survives.
Yeah, and it's ruthless pragmatism, because like in this case, he couldn't just point his gun at that guy and say, okay, and march him. Having him as a captive would have just been too difficult. It would have been a pain.
Yeah.
So shooting him was really the only choice. And similarly, at the very beginning, that scene at the beginning of Rogue One, where he has to escape and he has to leave the guy with the broken arm behind. Same thing.
He's in too deep.
Yeah. But now we go back to mercenary Andor here. Just give me my cut. And
Yep. Here's the other guy's thing back, and give me my cut, because that's what he promised me. I get my cut.
And honestly, if I were him at this point, I'd be thinking, my God, these guys are such a bunch of amateurs. They are going to get me killed. I've got to get out of here.
Which makes you want to shoot people first and ask questions later as well.
Also true. But I mean, to a point, but no, I mean, he could have just shot these two also and taken off, but that would
he didn't need to. I mean, he does it when he needs to, when the situation demands it. He's got the money, he can leave. So, and now it's the reaction. It's like, okay, there's been a heist. It gets the notice of of the ISB.
Yep. Here we have Steve's secret Star Wars crush. not this guy, although he is pretty handsome.
Well, he's my second.
Okay.
But yes, Deborah.
So we kind of we key back in our other storylines, because up until this point in this episode, we've just been on the one storyline of the heist team, and now we're keying back up, back in our other stories. So we've got Mon Mothma there in the Senate.
Check in with their other characters. This is a great scene too, because it does two things. It's a great callback to the prequels with the Senate chamber, because the Senate chamber was several really important scenes in the prequels took place in here. But we also see what's happened. Notice, like, most of those pods are empty. So the Senate, they aren't even bothering to show up anymore.
Yeah.
So that tells us how things have progressed over the last 18 years.
This was during COVID, so only every 1 in 4 could show up.
So the rest were on a Zoom call.
I think I saw the faint blue glow in every one of those pods of a hologram.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know. I would think it's possible also that some of those systems have been eliminated by the Empire, or they've just been so totally taken over by the Empire that they don't even have their own senators anymore.
Right, and I think that's what happened too. It's a combination of those things.
Yeah.
We see in Mon Mothma's husband, we see kind of the indifference of the wealthy class.
And so we had our last scene here. So like I said, we tied back in all of our stories. And we brought back in, I believe this was him finding out that the heist has happened, right?
Yeah.
So basically it's gossip in his shop that the heist has happened, and he's like, oh my God, it actually worked.
Yes.
He can't believe that team actually pulled it off.
I love how they just end the episodes. You're not ever ready for them.
Yeah, I know. I always find the endings abrupt just because I want more. I don't want to
I'm not
stop
ready
watching.
ever.
I'm not done yet.
Yeah.
Yep.
Mm,
Agreed.
I've been trying to, I watched it when it was originally on, when it was once a week.
Yeah.
And for this rewatch, I'm doing the same thing because I want each episode to be fresh in my mind when we do this. But it's a struggle. It's hard to not just, let's watch the next one now. Why wait?
But yeah, the importance there was that, I mean, that the heist happened and it resonated immediately, back to Coruscant, and it tied back in all of our storylines, of all the other story, our other three basically stories there, tied back into everyone reacting to this having happened. So
yeah, so that's where Jefferson, that you're watching and you want to go to the next one. I've been watching them and I just keep wanting to go back because I'm like, wait. I know that happened. I remember that conversation, but I don't remember it going down like that or that kind of thing. Or Jeff and I will watch a scene and I take it one way and he takes it another way. And then when the next scene happens or the next thing tied to that happens, I'm like, oh, I expected this. And he's like, I expected that. And I'm like, why would you think that? So then we'll go back and watch something. And then we'll be like, yeah, oh, you got that right, or you don't.
And that's another strength. I mean, it's a strength of Star Wars in general. I guess the highest compliment I can pay a movie or TV show is that I want to watch it again.
Yeah.
For sure.
I did want to double back, and I was going to hate myself if I didn't come up with this. And the movie you referenced with Peter O'Toole was my favorite year from 1982.
Okay.
One of my favorite movies that I've seen several dozen times.
Yeah, and I think it's one that when I was a kid.
Yeah.
They didn't really have cable yet when I was a kid, but you could get HBO, and it was just like one channel. It was basically like having cable with one channel, and it was on all the time. And so I've seen probably 10 to 15 minutes of hundreds of different movies. And for some reason, that one scene that I mentioned earlier, that line,
it's a wonderful movie.
Yeah, but
basically Peter O'Toole is playing Errol Flynn. I mean, I believe it's based on an actual incident that happened in the 50s, which was Errol Flynn being on your show of shows.
Yeah, maybe I'll because I don't think I've seen the rest of the movie.
Oh wow, you should absolutely watch it. It's a wonderful, wonderful movie. But yeah, I just wanted to double back to that. Our next episode is episode 7, announcement. So it's kind of we're in the aftermath of the Aldani heist. So,
well, the other thing, really quick, I think that is great about this heist is it wasn't. Even though Luthen thinks it's a success and he's like, oh my God, I can't believe it worked. Well, it didn't, because it was messy and people died and it did not go to plan. Yeah. So I think that's the other great thing about this series that allows that continuity to bleed through from episode to episode, because it's not like, okay, here's a quest, succeed or fail. Here's the next quest, succeed or fail. It's like, succeed with complications.
Real life is messy.
Yeah, exactly.
It absolutely is, which is why I think it's you can use those formulas and it's great. But if you muss them up just enough to where they bleed out, just like a lot in this series, like every one of these little things just bleeds out a little bit, where it would be nice and tight and compact, a crime of passion, where you kill a couple of officers. Fine, package that up, done. But instead it bleeds out. It gets somebody interested who has something to prove. So that builds. And, same thing now. Here we are halfway through the series, heist. Not just a filler episode, which it technically was in The Mandalorian with the jailbreak, which I loved. Is one of my favorite episodes. But this it ties in, it bleeds out, it keeps going, and it complicates things that extend. I think it's pretty brilliant.
Yeah, it is definitely part of a larger tapestry of a story.
Yep.
So any other thoughts on our heist before we kind of get out of here?
It was heist-terrific.
Yeah, nobody had any snacks. Nobody ever has snacks in these episodes.
During the heist, you mean?
Yeah, during the heist. Like nobody ever pulls out like a power bar, one of those little sticks that Luke Skywalker had on Dagobah or anything.
I think they all are doing that, obviously. That's why they're getting shot and squished and stuff.
It's
I'm
probably
looking for
Just
snacks.
Yeah,
probably a good
they're
point.
having their snack off
Yeah.
screen. When,
Yeah.
when we cut away to somebody else, that's when they reach for the candy bar.
I mean, if you want some gravity, somebody grab a drink of water or grab a snack.
Mm.
Or as we talked about earlier, making sure that everyone goes to the bathroom before the heist begins.
Right, exactly. That's critical.
Okay, well, thanks for joining us. Thanks for joining us just in time for the episode, Steve.
Yeah, sorry I was
a
late.
Slightly longer episode with our gabbing in the beginning, so want to kind of get going. So thanks for everyone for joining us. Join us live if you want on Binging the Force on Facebook or on Twitch. And if you want to listen to this after the fact, if you're running or driving a car or anything like that, look for us in any podcast clients for Binging the Force. And primarily like and subscribe for us on YouTube, which will definitely keep us going, and watch this after the fact. So we'll see you. Actually, we won't be doing next week, right? So because I'm actually going to be out of town next week. Or did we decide we were going to try to do it on Tuesday?
I don't think we had made a decision.
Okay, well, I guess we'll talk about it afterwards. And everyone else, for everyone else, it'll be a wonderful surprise. So
yes.
Okay, thank you everyone for joining us on Binging the Force.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.